Good morning, guys. Welcome to the current affairs session, right, where I'll be discussing all of the important topics that are necessary for UPSC. Right, yesterday the UPSC prelims paper has happened, and it was typically a tough paper when compared to all the other previous papers. I think, yeah, it was more or less near the paper of 2023. Yeah, and this clearly shows that there's no particular thing that you can learn or understand when it comes to UPSC. Right? Previously, many people thought that studying polity, environment, geography, economy, all of this would be enough for clearing UPSC. But now UPSC has shown that it's not polity and all. It is UPSC that is going to decide whether you're going to qualify or not. So these are the kind of things that UPSC does, and it is not a surprise. UPSC has been doing this all over since many years, right? And we are just observing now. It's because we are more inclined towards UPSC, and that is why we are noticing now. Okay, otherwise it has been doing since many years, and it's okay, right? Whatever happens, happens for the best, and yeah. So let us look at the current affairs for today, without any further ado. That is 25th May. Right? Firstly, we'll be talking about Rubio Jaishankar stress need for unimpeded maritime trade. And this is talking about unimpeded maritime trade. But other than the maritime trade, there are two concepts that you actually need to learn or understand when it comes to this particular article. And those two main articles, aspects are one. One is that tactical partnership versus strategic partnership, right? Tactical partnership versus strategic partnership is what we are looking at. Okay, that is what those are the two main things that are actually mentioned. The reason there's no need for you to understand everything is because the thing about maritime trade has been going on for a long period, and I think many people have studied till now. So what people did not study is strategic and tactical partnership. Okay, now let us understand what tactical partnership is and strategic partnership is. Right, uh, tactical partnership means, right, it is short term. It is a short term and issue based partnership. Tactical partnership is nothing but a short term partnership and is also issue based. Okay, for example, let's say Pakistan is there. Pakistan has recently tried to resolve the conflict between USA and Iran. That is called a what? Tactical partnership. It is what? It is short term. The relation between USA and Iran and Pakistan was very short term, and that short term relationship was mainly based on an issue, and that issue was a conflict between USA and Iran. That is called a tactical partnership. The tactical partnership usually happens whenever there's a what do you call negotiation to stop a war, stop a war, right? Then you have sharing intelligence, right? What is happening where, what is happening how, who is doing what. All of this is nothing but sharing intelligence. And lastly, managing a crisis, right? Managing a crisis. For example, let's say there's some tsunami or some earthquake that has happened, or there's some drought or some humanitarian crisis has happened in some state or some country. Then people the countries come together and try to resolve that particular crisis. That is nothing but a tactical partnership. What is tactical partnership? Tactical partnership is nothing but a short term partnership which is mainly based on issue. Okay, and the main aspects of tactical partnership are negotiation during war, managing of a crisis, and also sharing intelligence. These are all what? Tactical partnership. Then it comes to strategic partnership. Obviously, as tactical partnership is short term in nature, what is strategic? Strategic is obviously long term. So strategic partnership is nothing but a long term partnership. Long term partnership which includes defense, economy, technology, culture. All of these are nothing but what? Strategic partnership, meaning that a close relationship between countries. For example, let's say USA and India are there. USA and India have a strategic partnership. To USA and Russia do not have a strategic partnership, but India and Russia have a strategic partnership. That is what strategic partnership means, meaning that it is long term and it is diving deep into other aspects like defense, economy, technology, culture. so that there is high amount of what do you call connection between these two countries. That is nothing but tactical partnership and strategic partnership. That is what I wanted to share when it comes to this particular article. Next, we have Quad grouping is vital, says Japan's foreign minister. Right? It's talking about Quad. So let us understand what Quad is. Right? Quad is nothing but a grouping of 4 countries. Right? Grouping of 4 countries. What are the 4 countries? 4 countries are nothing but India, United States, Japan, and Australia. These are the 4 countries that are basically in a partnership called Quad. Now, why has Quad come into existence? The reason Quad came into existence is through a tactical partnership. Now, what did I say tactical partnership is? Tactical partnership is nothing but managing a crisis, sharing intelligence, and also what? Negotiation of a war, right? Negotiation to stop a war. These are all part of tactical partnership. So, Quad came into existence because of a tactical partnership. In 2004, there was a tsunami, right? A tsunami in Japan, right? 2004 tsunami happened. As the tsunami happened, all the countries, India, United States, Japan, and Australia came together to manage that crisis. Right? A tactical partnership happened between all of these. They saw that we can actually do things when we come together. As they saw that we can do things when we come together, they said that, okay, let us try to create a strategic partnership. Right? As the tactical partnership is working so very well, let us create a strategic partnership through which they came with Quad. Quad happened in 2007. Right? While the tsunami took place in 2004, Quad happened in 2007. 2007, and the Prime Minister of Japan at that time was Shinzo Abe. Right? Shinzo Abe. Shinzo Abe was the person who actually proposed the term of Quad and proposed that we need to form an alliance called Quad. Okay, and the place where it happened is called Manila. Right? Those are all the information that you actually have to keep in mind. And as they came together, right, the main objectives of Quad is nothing but maritime security, then Indo-Pacific free Indo-Pacific regions, right? And then you have balance between the growing Chinese influence, right? They wanted to counter the China's influence in the world. So these are the main reasons why Quad came into existence. When did Quad come into existence? Firstly, it came into existence in the year 2007, and Prime Minister at that time was Shinzo Abe. Right, Japan's Prime Minister was Shinzo Abe, and also it happened in Manila. Right, and the members of Quad countries are India, United States, Japan, and Australia. It happened in 2004. I mean, the main idea came in 2004 due to the tsunami that happened in 2004, and there was a tactical partnership between India, USA, Japan, and Australia, and they thought that we'll create the tactical partnership into a strategic partnership and created the alliance of Quad. Okay, so yeah, that is all about this particular article. Okay, now moving on. The amount of heat is actually rising, right? I would suggest everyone to drink electrolytes rather than drinking water alone, right? US ends, right? What is it? It's saying that US ends Russia oil waiver implications for India. It's saying that US has ended the Russia's oil waiver and there are some implications for India. Now, what is the particular editorial talking about? The main editorial is saying that the world wants to punish Russia through sanctions. Okay, the world wants to punish Russia through sanctions, but world also wants cheap oil, low inflation, and stable supply. Right? This is very common. Right? Countries like USA and all, what do? They will feel like Russia is growing. We need to stop Russia. We need to do whatever we can to stop Russia. Okay, so what do? They put sanctions. But Russia is a major contributor in oil. As there are more sanctions, what will happen? The supply will reduce. As supply will reduce, what will happen? Demand will increase. As demand is increasing, what will happen? Inflation will happen, and the cost overall, I mean, the global prices of goods, services, everything will increase by a lot. Right? It will increase by a lot. As it is increasing by a lot, what is happening? Again, USA is actually taking down the sanctions. That is what is happening. Okay. So what is there? The world wants to punish the Russian through sanctions, but world also wants cheap oil, low inflation, and stable supply. Now, why India? Now, why are there implications for India? The reason there are implications for India is because India is a net importer. Right? India is a net importer. It imports a lot of oil. Right? Nearly 90% of the crude oil imports are from other countries. I mean, imported from other countries, and that is the reason why India is also vulnerable to all of these things. Right? India is also vulnerable to all of the imports, because if there is any tension in the what you call West Asia or any oil producing country, obviously at the end of the day, who is going to suffer? India is going to suffer. So that is why there are high implications of in India. If USA removes sanctions from Russia, Russia sells oil at a lower price. As it is selling at a lower price, we can actually buy oil from Russia so that our inflation can reduce. That's the implication for India. Okay, so any what do you call change in the oil supply would obviously impact India, and it would lead to oil price hikes. It will lead to oil price hike, or what do you call shipping disruption, right? As it happened in Strait of Hormuz, right? Shipping disruption can happen. Then wars in oil producing regions. All of these can affect India in many ways. But why is Russia more popular now? Many people think that Russia has come in as a recent player. It has not come as a recent player. It has been producing and it has been supplying oil since much time. Okay, the reason it has become popular now is because of the Ukraine war. In 2022, the Russia-Ukraine war happened. As the Russia-Ukraine war happened, the Western countries started to sanction Russia. Right? The Western countries started to sanction Russia. As the sanctions were imposed on Russia, it was not able to sell oil to any other country. Okay, any other Western country or any other country, it was not able to sell. As it was not able to sell, it was trying to find outlets to sell oil at a cheaper price. That is when India came. India was suffering with inflation, right? High amount of inflation due to production cost increase or transport cost increase. So all of these cost increases and increase, India started to suffer. As there were sanctions on Russia, what Russia did, Russia dropped down the prices of oil. As it dropped down the prices of oil, who started buying? India started buying. So in India, the amount of oil prices were reduced, the inflation reduced, everything was very well. Then USA started to sanction India, that you need to stop buying oil from Russia, and you need to what do you call make a better partnership with USA. As I was telling you, right? USA wants to sanction Russia. It can sanction directly or indirectly. It can sanction by saying that Western countries do not promote Russia, or it can sanction countries like India or any other country that is actually taking oil from Russia and say that you should not take oil from Russia so that Russia's oil revenue can reduce. And that is the aspect that USA always keeps in mind. But then again, what you need to remember is that every time there is a sanction on Russia or any oil producing country, the oil producing reduces. As the oil producing reduces, the supply also reduces. And if you remember the concept or the linkage between supply and demand, as the supply decreases, the demand increases. And when the demand increases, the price of the particular cost of that particular product also increases. So that is what is happening with oil. So that is why USA is removing the sanctions on Russia so that it can uh, neutralize the global oil prices. Okay, so that is what you need to keep in mind, right? And uh, right, and they say that even though the world talks about solar energy, wind energy, and what do you call any other renewable energy, at the end of the day, it is still dependent on oil. Right. At the end of the day, it is still dependent on oil. Even though the world talks about solar, wind, green transition, the global economy is still heavily dependent on oil, gas, hydrocarbons. So what you need to remember is that Russian oil or any country's oil should be what you call prioritized. Right? Just because you want to sanction or just because you want to discourage a particular country and want it to stop from pouring, obviously there will be implications, and that implication is nothing but global oil price hike. As it is happening in India, it will happen everywhere, right? So yeah, and there are some things that we need to do, right? As everything is going on, right? As India is a net importer, which imports nearly 90% of oil, right? As it imports 90% of the oil, what is happening? We need to find some alternative measures. Without finding any alternative measures, I don't think India's vulnerability will reduce. Right? As if we want to reduce the vulnerability of India to the oil disruptions that are happening, we need to find multiple ways. Right? We need to find multiple ways to ensure that there is no problem that is happening whenever there is disruption in the West Asia or in any other country. Right? Now, what are the solutions? Solutions for India to keep away from the disruptions that are happening by USA, Russia, or any West Asian country. Firstly, one, diversify oil suppliers. If you remember that Russia sold at a very low cost, so we were dependent on Russia. As we were dependent on Russia, what happened? US started to put sanctions. As US put sanctions, we stopped buying oil from Russia, right? And then what happened? There is high inflation in India as well. So this is the repercussion. So in order to reduce this repercussion, we need to diversify the oil suppliers. Now, how can we diversify? For example, let's say UAE is there. United Arab Emirates has recently exited OPEC. As it has exited OPEC, what we can do, we can actually make a pact, or we can make a policy where UAE is directly connecting with us whenever we are in crisis or whenever we have high inflation. Right? It can sell us at a lower price. We can keep a particular agreement between UAE and India. Similarly, there are many other countries. Venezuela is there, right? OPEC plus countries are there. OPEC plus countries also include Russia. There is Gabon, right? Many other countries we can actually, what do you call, pinpoint and go and make an agreement rather than depending solely on one particular country for oil requirement. We can go for many other countries or many countries and go and say that we need oil, and let's make an agreement. In whenever we are in crisis, you guys can come and help us. That is what we need to do. So first is diversification of suppliers. Second one is extending the strategic petroleum reserves. Extending the strategic petroleum reserves. We know that the crisis that has happened recently has led to the usage of strategic petroleum reserves, right? We have used the strategic petroleum reserves, and our reserves are of 60 days, 60 to 65 days. But according to the global needs, right, they say that we need to put 90 days of global petroleum reserves. So what is the global average? Global average is nothing but 90 days. Countries like Japan, Singapore, right, China, and USA have high amount of global reserves, I mean oil reserves. USA has nearly 300 days worth of oil reserves. Singapore has 220 days. Japan similarly has 200 days, right? Even China has nearly about 200 days. So they can survive for a longer period. Even if there is a tension which is happening in West Asia or something, there is disruption. Even if there is disruption, they can survive. But countries like India, which have a very slow or low days of strategic petroleum reserves, cannot survive much. So that is why even our Prime Minister Modi has suggested what? He has suggested to use work from home. Why work from home? Because we do not have much petrol reserves and there is high amount of prices. We cannot burden our forex reserves just for a temporary need. Right? It is a very thin line. It is a very thin line to balance between need and want. Right? What we need is to reduce the consumption of oil. What we want is daily oil supply. Right? Our want can be met, but at what cost? We are reducing our forex reserves. We are increasing our import bill. Right? Instead of doing all of this, what we can do? We can actually reduce the use of oil. Right? So first thing is diversify suppliers. Second one is extend in the strategic reserves, and third one is improving refinery flexibility. If we actually become the refinery hub of the world, right? What are the parts of 8 core industry? Right? 8 core industry is there. 8 core industry is nothing but Friends C3. Friends C3. Right? So nothing but fertilizer, refinery, electricity, natural gas, cement, crude oil, coal, and steel. All of these are nothing but 8 core industries. And out of these 8 core industries, refinery is the highest. Why is refinery the highest? Because we refine a lot of crude oil. So if we become a major refinery or global hub of refinery, all the countries that are actually what do you call exporting petroleum reserves or natural gas reserves would come to India and ensure that we are supporting them. Thereby, our needs will also be met. So first thing is diversifying oil supply. Second one is extending strategic reserve. Third one is improving refinery. And fourth one is obviously exploring alternate energy. right? Exploring alternative energy. Like instead of using only oil, we can also use solar energy, we can use wind energy, we can use hydro energy, right? Many energies are there, we can actually explore all of these energy. So that is what this particular editorial is saying. What is it saying? It's saying that USA has ended Russia's oil, but however, there are implications on India. And what are the implications? India is very vulnerable to oil supply needs because it imports 90% of the oil. And in order to resolve that conflict, we are coming up with solutions. One is diversifying of oil suppliers, extending of strategic petroleum reserves, improving refinery, and lastly, exploring alternate energy. So that is all about this particular article. Next, we have India's green transition still runs on coal. What is saying? Is saying that India's green transition still runs on coal, meaning that we are saying that we are transitioning, but our green transitioning is running on coal. Okay. For this, we need to understand two concepts, right? First first thing is India is adding a lot of renewable energy, right? It is adding a lot of renewable energy, be it solar, be it wind, be it hydro energy. All of these energies India is adding, and the country, and despite all of these, country is still dependent on coal and imported fossil fuels. As I was just now telling that India is importing nearly 90% of its crude oil imports, right? For to meet its crude oil needs, it is importing 90% of it. So what is it doing? It is still dependent heavily on coal and crude oil imports. Right? We are saying that we have renewable energy capacity of nearly 42%. 42% energy capacity we have. But is that what really matters? That is what this article is talking. For that, you need to understand what installed capacity is. Right? They say that firstly, it is saying that installed capacity is nothing but, let's write installed capacity. Right? Installed capacity. And this is the first time that we need. And many people think that installed capacity means we have done a lot of things, right? It says that India has achieved 42.2% of India in installed capacity. Many people think that, yeah, we are going on a green path. But installed capacity is nothing but just the theoretical capability, right? Theoretical capability of producing electricity. What is it? Installed capacity is nothing but theoretical capability of producing electricity. Meaning that, let's say I installed 500 gigawatts of something, but it's not generating 500 gigawatts. It has the capacity to generate 500 gigawatts. That is the meaning of installed capacity. Many people do not know this, but it is not installed capacity, right? It is nothing but installed capacity. What is installed capacity? It is nothing but a theoretical value of how much that particular station can generate. It is not the actual generation of the power. So 500 gigawatts installed capacity means 500 gigawatts it can generate theoretically. It is not generating. Okay, but the actual generation is what we need to put in mind. But the actual generation means from which source which we are producing how much of electricity. Okay, so for understanding, we have 42.2% of installed capacity of solar energy, I mean renewable energy, and also 42.2% installed coal energy. Many people think that, before many years we are highly dependent on coal. Now we are not dependent on coal. If you want to see, you can check our installed capacity. But if you actually look at the actual amount produced, right? If you actually look at the actual amount produced, the coal produces nearly 71.8%. 71.8% of the production of what you call electricity is happening from coal, and only 15.8 15.8% is happening from renewable energy. You can clearly see the stats, right? 42% renewable energy in installed capacity and 42% coal energy installed capacity. It looks very good outside, but what is on the inside? We are still heavily dependent on coal. 71.8% of electricity is generated from coal. People are saying that we are using electrical vehicles, but where is the electricity coming for the electrical vehicles? It's coming from thermal power plants which are based mainly on coal. Right? It is mainly based on coal. That is what we need to keep in mind. Right? Now, now all of this is happening is because solar and wind energy are there. Right? Solar and wind energy are there. We have solar energy, we have wind energy, but that does not mean that we are using it continuously, because solar energy depends on sun and wind energy depends on the weather. Until and unless there is high amount of sunlight, there is no high amount of solar energy. Until and unless there is high windy area, there is no wind energy. So here they are intermittent, right? Intermittent energy sources. They are not complete sources, right? For example, if your laptop has to run, if you are watching internet, right, if you're watching YouTube, if you're watching your phone, what does this need? This needs power. So power is something that you need daily. You cannot depend on solar or wind energy for the sun to shine brighter or the wind to blow harder, right? You cannot wait for those to meet your energy demand. Your energy demand is actually peaking, and every time it is daily. So in order to meet that daily demand, we are depending on coal. That is why the demand of electricity on coal is 71.8%, right? That is why we have that coal as backup, right? Coal provides the base load reliability, right? Coal provides base load reliability. Base load reliability means what? Base load reliability means stable and continuous. Unlike solar energy and wind energy, the coal is very stable and it is very continuous in nature. We can actually meet our demands continuously through what? Coal energy. That is why we are still dependent on coal. On the front, we have installed capacity of high amount of renewable energy. On the back end, we have high amount of dependence on coal, mainly because base load capacity. Coal is meeting the base load capacity. Okay, that is why we are highly dependent on coal. Now, that is why we should stop focusing on installed capacity. Okay, many people still what do you call focus on the term installed capacity. That is why we need to stop focusing on installed capacity, because it's not working that much. We are only saying that we have theoretically have installed this much, but it is not actually working. Okay, so what can we do? What can we do is we can actually follow countries like China. China is there. For example, China is there. What is China is doing? China is doing electricity is being moved away from oil, right? It is exploring other options like electrical vehicles generated from renewable energy, right? And reducing the oil demand. All of this is what China is doing. Now, what India must do? India must focus on what do you call? It should move away from capacity transformation or capacity building from to system transformation. What is the system? The system is nothing but coal-based system. We have to transform from a what? Installed capacity to a transformed capacity. Transformed capacity is nothing but transformation of oil generation from one area to another area. That is when there will be real change. Until unless that has happened, there will not be any real change. Okay. And lastly, what can we do? What are the measures that we can take? What are the measures? First measure is battery storage. Battery storage is the first what do you call solution. The main reason battery storage is a solution is because, let's say, solar energy is there, wind energy is there, hydel energy, tidal energy, all of these energies are there. As they are intermittent, meaning that they are dependent on high amount of sunlight or high amount of wind or high amount of tides, they are only there for a certain period of time, but the amount of energy generated is high. Okay, as the amount of energy generated is high, we can store that energy. So what do we need? We need battery storage. So we need to improve our battery storage so that we can store all the energy that is being created. First one is battery storage. Second one is nothing but better transmission, right? As the electric transmission is happening, there is high amount of voltage lag and voltage swell, due to which what is happening? There is high amount of electricity loss. So we need to reduce the electricity loss so that we can reduce the coal consumption as well. So this is another aspect. And lastly, we need to obviously be flexible on electricity generation capacities, right? Meaning that using wind energy, solar energy for some aspects and oil energy only for some aspects. So that is all about this particular article. Yeah. And that is all about today's newspaper as well. I hope you guys have understood a lot about what installed capacity is and what tactical partnership is, what is strategic partnership, when has Quad come into existence, and what are the implications of something that is happening in the globe on India, right? Those are all the things that you need to keep in mind. Thank you guys for attending this class. We'll meet you guys in the next class. Thank you.